Okay, we're live.
All right, well, let's get started. We have, at the beginning of our meeting today, we have the continuation of a public hearing. This is part 2 of the public hearing regarding transitional residential district that surrounds the Amelia area, well, throughout the township, actually. So we're going to kick off with that. Debbie, can we do the call to order for the public hearing?
Yes. Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
and Mr. Campbellis.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's, with that done, let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Campbellis, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, of course. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete.
Pleasure.
So from here, we will, I have a few instructions for the public hearing. This is, as I said, this is a continuation that we held over from January the 27th. We, at that time, you'll recall, we wanted to at least get some more input from individuals in the community regarding this change to the zoning. And so we've done that, and now we're back for round 2. Anyone that wishes to speak during the public hearing, please raise your hand. Eddie, can you give the directions on how a person can participate? And then I'll move to the oath of those who wish to testify. But Eddie, tell everyone in our viewing audience how to participate if they'd like.
If you're on the computer, you can use the participant panel and raise your hand. Or if you're on the phone, you press *9 and that will also raise your hand.
Excellent. So with that said, anyone who wishes to testify or comment regarding this change of zoning or ask a question, please, if you would show yourselves on the screen and raise your hand, and I will issue the oath. So I see Loretta is doing it, Eddie is doing it, Stan Shadwell is doing it. Anyone else? All right. If you change your mind, I'll just swear you in before you actually make a comment if you are not doing it right now. So with that said, those of you who've raised your hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will tell the truth in these proceedings? Say, I do.
I do.
All right. You're sworn in. Now from there, we're moved into the public hearing section. We'll be discussing ZC 2020-003, and I will yield to staff presentation. Eddie?
Thank you. So this is an application to rezone the transitional residential district to single-family residential, which was initiated by the Zoning Commission on December 1st, 2020. There are 302 parcels total at around 638 acres in area. Now this map delineates the hatched area around the former village of Amelia. That is the primary location of the TR district that is proposed to be rezoned to SFR, single family residential. And I have a PDF version of this map too. So if anyone wants to zoom in on a particular area, I can pull that map up, and it has a higher pixel quality and all that sort of thing. So brief history. And of course, you guys have already seen this at the January 27th meeting, but the TR district was created in June 2010 as a response to annexation pressures from the village. November 2019, the village dissolved. August 2020, the Zoning Commission initiated a study into the TR district, which turned into a recommendation to initiate the application in December of 2020. And on the 5th of January, the Zoning Commission recommended accepting the Planning Commission's recommendation to rezone to single-family residential. January 27th was the Board of Trustees' first public hearing. We re-advertised that public hearing after the Board of Trustees recommended sending individual mailings to property owners, of which we sent 204. There were 214 unique owners of those 300 plus properties. Staff has found that the proposal to rezone to SFR is supported by the Pierce Township Land Use Plan and zoning resolution. A majority of land uses appear to be used for residential purposes. Further, the zoning commission have determined that the district has outlived its original intended purpose. The SFR makes up the majority of parcels zoned in the township and tends to function as a neutral low impact zone. So this table, these two tables give an illustration of the permitted uses and site development standards for the TR district as well as the single family residential district. The TR district, generally, it's a residential district as well, but it does allow some more intense multifamily and residential facilities and that sort of thing, whereas a single family residential is primarily focused on just that single family. So staff recommends that the Board of Trustees consider the Zoning Commission and Planning Commission's approval recommendations and staff report and pass a motion to approve the application to rezone the subject TR district to single family residential with the following two conditions. Department of Community and Economic Development, GIS Division, shall be notified of all parcels to be rezoned. And the moratorium set via Resolution 2020-019 and extended until February 28th shall remain in effect until the effective date of this approval. Now that moratorium is still present and has been extended, but it would need to be extended over the course of the 30-day appeal period. So staff is available if you have any questions.
Okay, trustees, do you guys have any questions?
I don't. I have just a clarification. The moratorium is already set to extend through that 30-day period. We don't have to do anything, or we have to extend that.
At your January meeting, you extended it until this meeting, and so if you were to approve it tonight, part of that approval would be just extend it 30 days so that we cover the appeal period. There's like a 30-day window until an approval will become effective, and it would have to continue through that.
I see. Thank you.
Sure.
And we're allowing public comment at this point and questions. I think someone might have their hand up
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, we'll move into that in just a second. Pete, did you have any?
No, nothing
Okay.
from my end.
I have nothing to ask or to comment on, so I think I feel comfortable moving on to the public comment. Kathy, we're going to unmute you because your hand is up, and I don't know if we caught you. And I'm once again struggling to unmute you.
I don't think that's
There we go. Kathy,
Hello.
did you want to, hold on, let me talk. Kathy, did you want to speak, or did you want to ask a question? Which one was it? Because I'll have to swear you in. I don't think you got sworn in.
Hey,
Kathy?
Kat. Kathy, it's me over here. Get in here. I'll tell you, it's when you're married, you know how it is. Hey, I do have a question. All I want to know is my property. I get a little over 10 acres. Used to be cattle here. I got once in a while raise a pig to eat, and I've got chickens, ducks, goats, and all that. How's that impact me as a landowner here, kind of under agricultural?
Do you live, where do you live?
I live at 3269 Jenny Lynn Road, right in the S Bend.
Okay. I know where you live. You
Have
got
walked in my yard before?
I think I tried to put up a yard sign once or twice in your yard.
Well, I told you it was okay, but you never did.
Oh, it sounds like Alan.
Well, the problem is that when I knocked, well, let's stick to this. Eddie, as I understand it, it doesn't have an impact at all on his property.
It doesn't. I just looked up the property here. It looks like it's over 10 acres, and there would be no effect.
Okay, because everybody I've talked to around here never knew that we was changed over, and I think we talked about this 2 years ago,
Mhm.
into a transitional single family. We was never notified, and Mr. Weber, that lives next door to me, has lived there since 1960. He was never notified of any
Mhm.
changes, and at least you're notifying us this time, but I was just wanting to know how it was going to impact me, what other people do with their property. There's not much I can do about that, I guess.
Well, Tom, did I need to get him sworn in, or is that just a question is okay?
I think it's probably better if you swear him in because he was making comments and giving opinions. So it sounds like he's,
Yeah.
it'd be good to swear him in.
Sir, can I get you to, if you could state your name and your address one more time for the record, and then I'll swear you in so that we've got you officially on the record. How about that?
Okay, it's Gregory Senior,
Okay.
3269 Jenny Lynn Road, Amelia, Ohio.
Now, if you could raise your hand and I will do the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will tell the truth in these proceedings? Say, I do.
I do.
All right. So now we've got you officially sworn in after you made your statement. And you're officially on the record. All right. Is anybody else want to make comment tonight? Okay. Seeing none. Stan, did you raise your hand and I didn't see it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I thought I might have to, but I didn't.
Okay. Okay, if there's no further comment, I don't want to leave Kathy Senior off, so I'm going to go back and check. Eddie, can you just unmute that real quick? You got her? Kathy, are you there?
Okay.
Okay. All right, with that, then we will move to, I guess, motion to close the public hearing unless there's somebody else that would like to comment. Can I receive a motion to close?
I'll make
A motion. Second.
Who's first?
Nick.
Nick?
Nick made the motion. Pete made the second.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Okay, now it's time for the trustees to deliberate. Is there anything we'd like to deliberate?
Could I add one thing, Alan?
You may.
There's, well, actually two things. The resolution as drafted builds in that 30-day extension of the moratorium that Eddie was talking about. So the resolution that's been prepared has that in it. Secondly, the resolution does not wipe the TR zoning off of the books. All it does is rezone all of these properties to single-family residential. So if for any reason the Board of Trustees of Pierce Township in the future wants to assign TR zoning to anybody, it's still on the books. Unless you want to change that, and then you could take out one word in the resolution, then you would completely wipe it off the books. But in my discussions with Eddie, we thought it'd be best to just leave it there in case it may ever come into play in the future.
Under what circumstances might it come into play?
Well, if you take my advice, it would never come into play. I'm not a fan of transition zonings, at least on this circumstance, but I can't imagine it ever coming into play again.
It's hard to say when it would come into play. It basically, there's a big drop off in lot sizes. We go from like 20,000 to
2,500.
under 10 pretty rapidly. It conceivably just exists as an option, but of course, if you wanted to get rid of it, you can get rid of it altogether. It's just another option that would exist as a transition, but someone would have to actually go through the rezoning process in its entirety and find an area that would actually be suitable for those size lots, those size set, those levels of setbacks and those densities and that sort of thing.
I would think that you could in theory, theoretically achieve the same things if you really wanted to through a PUD or an MUD or something like that. I don't see any reason to leave it on there personally.
So would you propose changing that one word that Tom referenced? Nick?
I would, yes. That's my feeling. If you guys think otherwise, or.
So therefore, I think at the time that you read or, you deliberate on that resolution, if somebody makes a motion to amend it, to take out the word not, and that, I think it's section 3, or Eddie knows where it is, you could just take that word not out, but that would be by amendment. So you can amend it at that time.
So make the motion to amend now or wait?
You probably would do it when you're considering the resolution.
Okay.
That would be the more normal way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you pull that section up, Eddie?
Yep. Yeah, I'll get it right here. Tom, do you know, is it section
Section 3.
3? So?
You're right there. I think section 4, look at, yeah, the last part of section 4 that says the text of the Pierce Township zoning, it says shall not be amended. If you remove the word not, it'll say shall be amended with the deletion of that. So it'll be gone forever if you take the word not out.
Okay.
Okay.
I wrote it like that just in case you had this discussion and you wanted to knock it out. So I tried to make it one word.
So what you're recommending is that we have 3 choices, which are recommend the resolution be drafted for approval to rezone all transitional residential parcels to single-family residential, approval with modification, and the third choice of denial. So in this case, we would be looking at, any one of those, but it sounds like we're leaning toward recommend the resolution be drafted, correct? Not with modifications.
With a modification, yeah, by amending with the deletion of the word not in
It would be
section.
modified to remove the word not.
No,
Right,
the second option. In other
Yeah.
words, the
Yep.
second option.
yes.
So what I would do is I would look for a motion that recommends a resolution be drafted for approval to rezone transitional residential parcels to single-family residential with modifications.
Hmm.
Okay.
Right.
I would be happy to make the motion to recommend a resolution be drafted for approval to rezone all transitional residential district parcels to single-family residential with the modification of taking out the word not.
Okay.
In section 4.
And we also have the 2 conditions that were recommended as well.
I would second that.
Let's remind, Eddie, real quick, remind everybody of the 2 conditions.
Okay. The Department of Community Development, GIS Division, shall be notified of all parcels to be rezoned, and the moratorium extension is included in the resolution, but that's embedded.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
Nick,
Again,
can you say that again?
good luck with that, Nick.
Your motion?
I make a motion to recommend exactly what's stated on the agenda. Recommend a resolution be drafted for approval to rezone all transitional residential district parcels to single-family residential with the modification of removal of the word not from
Okay.
section 4.
Okay. Eddie, I need to get a copy of that, please.
No problem. I'll
It's
send it
not in my
over.
packet, so that would be
So we
great.
now have a motion. We have a second, I think. Pete, you did second.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Debbie, can you do the roll call, please?
I can. Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Tom, do we need a motion to come out of to come out of the public hearing?
Yes, and yes, and then later, when you, then you can actually make a motion to pass it as amended. Because what you did is you just made a motion to amend it, and that passed, but then you haven't passed the resolution
Right.
as amended. So yes, I think that's the right way to do it.
Okay, well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn from the special session and enter into the regular meeting. Do I have a
I'll move
motion?
that.
Pete motioned. Nick, will you second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman
Yes. All right,
at 6:53.
now we get to go. We're going into our regular meeting. So having exited one, I'll let Eddie get caught up with his visuals here. All right, we're ready to go. Let's call Debbie. Can we call to order, please?
Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Campbell,
Here.
and Mr. Freeman.
Here. All right, now that we've done that, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance again. Debbie, would you lead us in the pledge once more?
Be glad to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, I'll get rid of all this paperwork that's in front of me. Let's do the approval of the minutes from our February the 10th meeting. Debbie?
Just one this time.
I know, it's amazing.
I ask for a motion to approve the February 10th meeting, regular meeting minutes, please.
Make the motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Do we do a roll call now?
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go right on into old business. Loretta, are you leading this charge here? Loretta?
I am here. Well, the first time I thought that Eddie might make reference to, we do have a link there so that you can view the full report from Red Tiger and Kohler that we had discussed at our last review of that on the public agenda. I don't know if Eddie has anything else to add, follow-up conversations, but if anyone has any questions or wants to review the final full report, it's much more comprehensive. It's 80 some pages?
Yeah, I think it's in the 80s, 90s. Yep.
98.
Yeah, 98. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good opportunity just from a promotional perspective. It is on our webpage, on the actual front page, and then it was on Facebook as well and all of our social media. So it's there for review. My contact information is there for anyone who wants to comment. There's a lot of really good information, a lot of lots of shiny maps and things like that as well, if you're into that. And so any feedback we get is great. And if not, if everyone's really happy with it, that's also great. So and we can also help direct people to that document as well if they want to call the office or anything as well, and we can make accommodations as necessary.
Okay. All right, Loretta, you want to go on into Amelia updates? Oh, Mark has his hand up. Hold on, Mark has his hand up. Eddie, unmute him, please. Mark, you're live.
You got me?
We do.
I've looked through the 98 pages, so what's the next step?
Next step, we get public input, further public input, and then we start to implement.
When are you anticipating public input?
Well, that's why it's on the Facebook page, and it's on the web page, so people can read it and give us comment.
So what you're saying is you have no timeline for any next steps or any other activities at this point. Is that correct?
No. we are going through it. We're working the timeline. There's some committees that'll have to be assigned and created, but we're going to lay that out. And we're going to give another presentation on next on the exact timeline and the approach we're going to use. Right now, we want everybody to buy in on it and tell us what they think about it. We don't want to start working on projects when, you know, the community may say we don't want to do that project and we have to throw it out.
Well, I'm not suggesting to start any work on it. I was just wondering what the next step was going to be in terms of digesting what they've sent to us and determining what the plan is from there.
So I've reviewed about half of it, maybe 2/3. There's a lot of detail in it. It's a great report, what I've seen so far, and it's going to take a while for not only the trustees, but the public to digest it. So I can't speak from Alan or Nick, but I don't know that we'll have time to necessarily have a framework or a timeline in place by the next meeting. There's a lot of information in here to digest.
Good enough.
Thank you, Mark. Stan? Hold on, Stan, you're not unmuted.
Sorry. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that.
Start from the top, Stan.
Do we have a price on all of the elaborate projects that were included? Because at the end of the day, it's how much money. I mean, it's bad enough that we buzzed away 50 grand of quote unquote COVID relief money to come up with this wonderful plan to change this, that, and everything else. How much money would it cost the township from my taxes and everybody else's taxes?
Well, first of all,
that would be the key thing to me. Put up a plan. X is going to cost so much. Y is going to cost so much, and so on and so on. We can look at it and go, yeah, why do we want to do that? Why do we need to do that?
that's exactly right. And that's why we want to sort through and see which issues, you know, the public thinks are most important, and then we can move forward on those. And then there are projects in there that we all think are more important. And we think that the communication aspect is something that we want to focus on, and communication doesn't cost that much money to advance. So those things are low-hanging fruit that don't cost a lot, but some other items are more physical and more expensive. And then we want to build a strategy around those things that reduce the amount of money that we have to invest from the township, and find partners and grow out of it. And so that's kind of why we want to make sure that when we move forward, we're moving forward with a group of projects that the community can get around, rather than the projects that I think are important, or Nick thinks, or Pete thinks are important. We're going forward with projects that the community thinks are important, so we're not spinning our wheels.
Okay. Do you have any input from the community so far?
A couple of people have made comments to me. I don't know if anybody's made anything officially through, you know, the Facebook page or the web page or anything else, but people have made comment.
Okay.
And then, you know, we're just, like I said, we want to leave it open for public comment so that people have the opportunity to see it and go through it and give us their thoughts.
Okay. Do you have a timeline?
Including you, Stan.
Are you sort of saying we're going to start in June, or is it just some sort of indefinite plan?
Oh, yeah.
Indefinite time?
No, I'd like to see us starting to dig in on different, you know, segments as early as, I don't know, I'd love to see us start working on it sometime in April.
Oh, April Fool's Day, for example. Okay, fair enough. Thanks. Is it only our side of the road, or is it both sides of the road?
Well, we have discussed the issue with both sides of the road. There are some projects that they're not interested in, and there are some projects that they probably will join us in. But our goal is to work collaboratively where we can, and where we need to, we'll work on our own. There's a lot of work that we can do on our own that we don't really need Batavia Township for. You know, improvements to you know, Grow Park and improvements to Shank Park and things like that. Those, we don't need Batavia for those. working on trying to promote the premier property, trying to do things around the public library. We don't really need Batavia for that. We can do those things on our own.
Okay.
So there's plenty of work for us to do out of that report that really doesn't necessitate us working with Batavia, though we want to.
Would if we could, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I give another example of how this report already benefits us?
Sure.
Just as a visioning and planning document, I mean, Eddie's pretty excited about it. We've had conversations about how it lays out and shows, and we got a lot of public input in the process of creating the plan. So we do want to make sure that all of those participants see their comments reflected in this plan, make sure that it's fed back to them so that they can provide any additional feedback. But connectivity and looking for opportunities. So as Eddie has properties that are coming in for redevelopment adjacent to the premier site, part of the premier site, we know that we're looking for critical components and the right places to put connecting pathways or sidewalk improvements so that we know if a plan comes in, now we have something to guide us in terms of knowing whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to put a new path on the front side or the back side of a lot that's adjacent to Premier. If we're trying to connect ourselves over to Oak Street in the long run, how we can capitalize on the library location, the post office location. So there may be a plan that now comes before Eddie, and he has a much better feel of our community, what our desires are in terms of making infrastructure investments, or for developers, private money to come in and make a difference for us when he can help them shape and mold their plans.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, I think you're still live.
Yeah, I am. Is the only place to make comments on Facebook now, or is that our official commenting?
No.
Where do we make comments?
The website
Anywhere you'd like. If you want to write a letter, you can send a letter. If you want to send an email, you can send an email. You know how to find us, Mark.
Didn't we?
Yeah, and the posting online, the posting online has my contact information as well. If you want to send an email and that sort of thing too.
Didn't we have some sort of a intention on doing at some point a Red Tiger specific study specific meeting, a special meeting of the trustees?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we set that yet, or I'm sorry?
We haven't set it yet.
But that would allow more opportunity for feedback during that meeting, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And we can advertise that meeting and everybody knows what it's about. And if they have questions or things they want to add, they can welcome to attend that.
Yeah.
We sent that out on Circle, didn't we, as well?
It's on
Email.
our main page on the website too. And this will take you straight to it.
So 3 things essentially so far: the website directly, Circle, which is, I guess, an email blast, and then Facebook.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So moving on.
One thing too, I think, just if I could just highlight one thing, I'm not trying to bias anyone's opinion on it, but one of the big components of the study might seem obvious, but we have a lot of active participants in the community, and one of the big components of this study, one of the most valuable portions rather, was getting people on the same page with what we feel like we know what everyone's thinking, but for everyone to actually say what they're thinking is an entirely different thing. And we were able to get a lot of that sort of information. And so a lot of portions of the implementation, which are toward the back of the document, illustrate different steps that we can take. And a lot of it really doesn't take much financial commitment. A lot of it is just organizing people in the community to push on common interests that we've kind of mined, more or less, to figure out what everyone really desires in the community. So a lot of it isn't really, there's a lot of components that are not, don't have a huge financial outlay. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, with that, let's move on to Amelia Updates. Loretta?
Okay, the first item is that we do have another meeting with the state auditor and Amelia on March the 12th on Friday. So we'll get an update. I know that Amelia has not had another meeting since their last one, but we've asked for an opportunity to touch base with the group so that we can hear the latest plans. So that will be happening. So we'll have more after that. The lighting petition for the Quail Creek area will be going out in the mail soon. It's to the printer now. We have about 300 pieces going out for that one. We had over 500 letters going out for the Sedona Ridge one. Sedona Ridge went out on the 2nd of March. And as of today, we had received 27 responses. So hopefully in the next week, and again, we'll give that a 3-week timeline, we should be receiving hopefully some responses to the Quail Creek district area. We have a follow-up meeting at noon tomorrow with Duke Energy. Excuse me. And
We discussed this earlier today.
I keep losing my voice in the evening, sorry. But Duke Energy is going to have a follow-up meeting with us so that we can kind of run down this list of what we have and haven't identified. I think there's another batch of Cobra heads. So we have about 20 of them on 125 that have been accounted for on our side of the street. And we're still waiting to see them land on our bills so that we can confirm the amount. So just for your information, we have about 80 lights that Pierce Township wide had already been paying for as public community lights. So we have approved up to, like I said, the 350, I believe, related to the ODOT lights. But as we drill down on these numbers, that might be a more generous number. We might have room for more of those Cobra headlights that are on the side streets. So we have to look at Klein and Floral and Maple and Oak, a portion of Jenny Lind to verify. Some of those lights I would have thought might have, because they were on the Pierce Township side of the road already, that might have been included. So I'm inclined to also ask them for an audit and an accounting of the 80 lights that we've already been paying for. Then we will have all of our lighting inventory sorted out once and for all.
And most of those Cobra lights will stay on.
Well, 125, absolutely. We have lights that we already were paying for. I'm guessing even at Locust Lake, that might have been a Pierce light and not an Amelia light, but that's what we're sorting out now. We're getting to those very fine details.
Okay.
So
Nick?
Are there any other questions about that?
Nick, Pete?
Out of those 27 that we've received back, do you have a general feel of what the responses look like?
Well, if they responded, it means they returned the petition, which if they voted no, then they didn't return the petition. That's how it works. If you're interested, then sign this petition, basically. So if they've sent it to us, it means they are interested.
Affirmative, okay.
Yes.
Right. So Alan, I think I just want to remind everybody that once they start coming in en masse, once you hit that number of 50%, which would be what, 150, Loretta?
No, this is the 505.
Oh, the 500, okay, 251. Yeah, 251 yeses, then
something like that.
the trustees want to be ready to set a hearing fairly soon after that, so you can make your decision. You don't need to drag it out you don't need to wait a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Once the citizens reach their 50%, you can get it set quickly after that. So just, I guess you'd say, stay tuned for further details.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for clarification for me also, I guess it's best if we assume that we're going to have a separate public hearing for each district rather than trying to have one public hearing and have both addressed at the same time?
I think that's completely up to the trustees. It seems to me they would do a separate hearing for each because the cost based on what Duke tells you might be a few pennies different for each area. So
They-
you might
they
wanna do
are.
different ones. Yeah. So, yeah, I think a separate hearing for each.
I think that makes sense.
I agree. Have we, are we able to, or have we done any? I mean, I know we discussed it, and I'm thinking that I really appreciate this update, Loretta, and kind of being specific about where the lights do not have the potential to go off. So like 125, I think there's parks and things that we're going to continue to pay for lighting on, and then there's neighborhoods that have HOAs that are electing to, pay their lighting through that. So is there any way that we can, in a more precise and tangible way, kind of show folks where the exact areas that we're talking about, so people don't get confused? The park lights going out, or the 125 lights going out? I know we talk about it in the meeting, but can we post something somewhere to say specifically what we're dealing with?
I really can't make any commitments, because as we've passed them on to the HOAs, they have their own process to go through, and I don't know how long that's going to take. So I don't know if there's going to be a gap, and we'll also, be meeting with Amelia tomorrow and find out where we stand, where they're concerned. But what I know is that we've absolutely committed to the billing for 125, but Duke hasn't even gotten its paperwork together for us yet. So Duke may just have to keep them on because they don't have anybody else to bill.
So we have
Right.
like a bunch of areas of the township that are definitely, there's no lighting issue, or there's no lighting. Then we have areas that definitively are staying on, i.e. 125 lights. Then we have areas that are maybes or waiting, you know what I mean? So like,
Right.
is there any way to lay out?
If I can clarify just for a second, we have a meeting on the 24th. It's a special meeting, and this is going to be one of the agenda items on that meeting. We'll have more information because the discussion will have been had. That's going to happen tomorrow with Duke. And Eddie is working on a map that will show roughly what I think you're looking for, Nick, where it shows, this subdivision, the petitions have been sent on this date. This is a homeowners association. They've come to an agreement. This is a homeowners association that's come to an agreement, and this is where all of our lights. So there should be a graphic that'll show all of that, and we can work through that on the 24th so that it's very specific.
All right, I got you.
Or as specific as we can make it at
Right.
this moment. It's a moving target, but at least we'll have a graphic that can show us a little bit better how much of Amelia will have lights.
Sounds great.
All right. Okay, Mark has got his hand up, so I will find Mark, and he's unmuted. Okay, Mark. There you go, you're live.
Hey, Loretta, do you have an agenda for the meeting on the 12th with the state?
They have provided, they're providing the agenda for that.
You don't
It's
have
not
one?
our agenda, it's theirs.
Yeah, I know, but have they forwarded that agenda to you?
I haven't seen one yet.
As I understand it, there's 4 things that needed to be done to get through the whole Amelia dissolution, as you and I talked the other day.
Mhm.
Do you know if any of those things have been accomplished?
That's what we'll find out. So it's the escrow of the money for the outstanding debt that's not callable. And yeah, off the top of my head, I don't have all the rest of them. That's one of the big ones.
Well,
The records management is another item that needs to be addressed.
Well, the 21-day hold on the lawsuit, that should be expired.
That should
by
be
now.
done. That should be done. And as far as I could tell, looking at their fund balances, that had been paid out.
So as far as I can tell, unless there's something new, the last major step would be the final state audit. Is that reasonable to say?
I believe so, but I'll have better information on Friday. It's very close. Then we'll
Look
have
forward
more detail.
to it. Is Dave coming down?
We have conference calls.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
So I think that's all I
All right,
have on
with-
that.
Okay, Renee, you have your hand up. I'm going to unmute you, or try to. All right. You're open.
Okay, so if 251 people do not return the petitions, what happens then?
We
There's
are
no
left to
lighting
assume that they're, right.
Okay, because I'm going to put that information out on Wake Up Amelia, that 200, at least 200 or 251 petitions need to be turned in. And what is the by date?
You know,
Well,
Renee,
yes,
I would,
people,
hold on. Renee, when you use the number, try to go a little higher.
Okay,
Because I want to make sure that, you know, if you put in 260 or 265, I'd feel more comfortable. And that way the target's-
505 parcels is what I have.
Right. So,
Okay.
so just, you know, go big. Because we just, you know, we would need that to cross the finish line. I wouldn't want it to be at 249.
right. And I want people to understand that exactly what's going to happen.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't want it to come back on anybody that they weren't informed and why are the lights out, which I know you'll get 100 complaints if that happens because, you know, people just don't pay attention. But the other thing for the meeting on Friday, again, I'm going to bring up Tim's point. Have anybody, or can you have that discussion with Amelia about paying for the lights? I know that that's something that we've discussed at 2 different meetings here, and I just, you know, I don't want to leave that stone unturned, although I know what's going to be underneath it. But
Well,
I mean, you can't hurt. The worst they can say is no, but you know, till we get this figured out anyway.
they've already said no a couple of times to us.
Yeah,
on
there's
that
a
subject.
Yeah, they said no for several reasons, but the most important one was it would keep a fund in existence after they dissolve, what they feel they can't. Number 2, it would be taking money out of Batavia's pocket if they did. So those are the 2 reasons they gave us.
Okay. All right, I will put it out. Hopefully you'll get some more turned in. And you said the by date was what, Loretta?
So we said 3 weeks from the date of the letter. So that letter went out on the 2nd.
Yeah, I think most
And
people got
so
it
actually, we
Monday.
suspect that we'll be looking at what we've received so far when we meet on the 24th. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to collect if people continue to mail them in. That'll be the trustees' decision in terms of, you know, let's give it another week or whatever it is. We'll have an update and conversation on the 24th.
Okay, and then you said the lights on, hold on, I think it's Oak,
Quail Creek.
Klein, Maple. Are those the overhang lights?
They are, but there are actually some of those in the Huntsman Trace in the Quail Creek neighborhood. So they're being treated the same as the other lamps as far as being associated with parcels. So there's just a few others. So, you know, where there might be 3 or 4 lights on Maple or Klein, we might just look at, I think there's the light at the corner of the bank. That actually is facing the bank lot. We found that a lot of those are actually private pays. So if they're not facing the street, they're facing a private business. It may really be the private business's responsibility. The one that's near the post office, I'd say we could deem a public light, that we would maintain one that's by the post office, by the library. But if there's 2 or 3 other lights on the street, they may or may not be really essential.
Okay, and just one of the other, I wanted to follow up. I know Adele sent me an email, but I sent to you and Nick and Rex and Adele the items that I sent to the village on the stuff that's missing. And of course, you know, they threw the ball back in your court. So everything that's missing is your fault, apparently. I'm just saying what you saw the email. I didn't make it up. So where are we at on my next step? Because like I said, I only got something back from Adele who said she would, you know, they were looking into it. I believe she said they found the popcorn machine
At the maintenance building, there's 2 of them.
Oh, well, isn't that special? she will not give me the receipts. I think there was only 3 things that we don't have receipts for, but how are we going to take this to the next step?
Well, all I want to say first, and then I'd have to leave the rest of that answer to Tom. But Adele and I have now been in both buildings because I think maybe twice I've been in the police building at all. So there are other items. I can't say they aren't there because we have not climbed around everything. We're not at the point where we're emptying the buildings. We don't have an inventory of all the contents. Some of your major items, that's what we had asked you to tell us. What were the major items that you were concerned about? You did the walkthrough at the administration building with us. And so there were many items that you were able to observe and see.
Right.
I've heard, there are places we suspect these other items are, but we just don't have the staff and the time to go look for specific items at this point. I can tell you, we do know where the police bikes are. The timer is still sitting on top of the old mayor's court bench. So there's no reason to believe that everything is missing. So we weren't telling you we can't find them. We've not dropped everything to go look for items. Because whatever is there are the contents that we will have to eventually sort through and address.
Right. And that's what I was given in the opportunity to say, hey, I know where this is. It's here or it's there. And said, I got the smart reply back that instead of just addressing the issue and having it done and over with, that, now we have to go through extra steps to find this stuff. And like I said, I didn't put nonsensical stuff on there. I mean, it's expensive stuff that was missing, or, again, a police badge that nobody should have that has no authority. I mean, I think that's very important. And I think, Chief could probably say that nobody that's not a police officer should have any kind of badge that says police officer on it. I mean, that's just me. And I would think that would be something that needs to be taken care of. But I mean, I appreciate Nick and you and Adele and Rex walking through there and giving us the opportunity. You absolutely did not have to do that. And I hope that we're helping you guys know the value and stuff of these items. And like I told you before, if you need any help, I'd be more than willing to help you all. And it's not, not to be vindictive, but it's to make sure that the money that was spent that was ours is accounted for. And I think that's the basic reason, because when this stuff goes to auction and stuff, it just needs to be accountable. And I wanted to let you all know that we discussed, Nick, and that I was sending an information packet or doing stuff to get in front of legislation. I have finally, after about 3 months of working on it, and it's probably 100 pages long, but this is something that can't be explained in 2 paragraphs. And one of the things that I did put on there was accountability for items, before that transition period. There should have been some kind of walkthrough, or Amelia Village should have had these things that cost, over a certain amount of money, some kind of accountability as to where they are and if they got rid of them and stuff like that. And I think that needs to go into legislation as well. And, like I asked, I hope that y'all can give me some feedback before I send this up to the local and state government committee. I think there's like 11 people on the committee, but I'm going to send this packet up there. And, anything that you guys can add would be so detrimental, or would be so helpful for the next thing that happens. So I've just put a lot of hard work into this, and, a little input from you guys would help tremendously. So that's all the questions I have, I think, at this point.
Okay.
I'm happy to give any feedback you'd like, Renee, or take a look at whatever you'd like.
Okay, I will. You'll be sorry you said that.
You'll be sorry you had the Freudian slip of detrimental.
I know, I'm sorry. I try to use those big words and then it just backfires on me.
Well,
So
that might be how it turns out. I mean,
the simple Clermont County. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, Tim Rosser, you got your hand up. You're unmuted. Go. You're on.
Good evening, guys.
Hey.
Hey, real quick, I was looking over, Loretta had filled my records request from Pierce Township. I requested all emails from the trustees, from Loretta, from Duke Energy, Tom Keating. It was 247 pages, and I'm gonna say close to 200 of them was from Duke Energy, in a neighborhood amount. I didn't see anything from the trustees going back and forth, or conversating with Loretta on these, on this issue. So anyway, what I'm getting at, guys, is I'm glad, the petitions are out there. Hopefully the folks read them and get them sent back into you guys. But overall, my only comment tonight is I was kind of disappointed. I did reach out to the trustees on the 24th of February, and with suggestions, issues that I felt that was pertinent to the lighting district. And I guess it didn't mean a whole lot. I only got response from one trustee. And thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. You did respond back to me and give me an input of what your thoughts were. I never received anything to say, Tim, you know what, we're working on it. Tim, we don't know where to go. Tim, there was nothing. It was, crickets. So I was a little disappointed with that part of it, because the streetlights are one of my dear projects that we make sure that they do stay on for security purposes. So the only other thing I had was, I did not see anything corresponding back and forth with Amelia, Todd Hart, or Kathleen Ryan pertaining to the no answer to possibly paying for street lighting for a year. As I put in my emails, I'm not calling people out and saying they're untruthful, but if there's an email, I'd like to have that, because I will directly approach her by email and question her, why can't we do this? And why can't there be a check cut to Pierce Township for X amount of dollars to cover for 1 year? They're writing checks recklessly anyway, so why can't that happen? And I know the auditor is probably going to have a fit on doing it that way, but you know what? The auditor's not been in tune from the very beginning. So I'm not a real buyer of that one. That's all I had to say tonight, guys. I would like a response, and that's going to be everything this evening for me.
Tim, I thought I forwarded you the email from Tom regarding his conversation with Kathy, and if I didn't, I
think
will.
that Tom can answer that.
Okay, go ahead, Tom. Apparently you can answer.
Well, number one, it's attorney-client privilege. Number two, if the client, namely the trustees, want to share it with a citizen, you have every right to do that. So, but there were several reasons, and I mentioned them previously tonight, that it would be taking money out of Batavia's pocket, and it would be establishing an ongoing fund after the audit is complete. That's why they said they couldn't even consider it. But again, my communications to the trustees are privileged. And if you want to waive that, you can, but that's it.
Yeah,
Well,
Tom, I know a lot of this stuff is getting covered as well in meetings, and I know Loretta's been responding to a lot and stuff. So, I mean, would you care to specify on what you would like a response from specifically, since we're discussing it here at the meeting? I mean, is there anything from me that you would like my opinion or anything on?
Well, I think it was all in the email. I don't have them directly in front of me right now, but my thoughts was that I would get some form of a response. And when I didn't, I was a little taken back on that. I was a little frustrated. But the thing is, you know, like Tom said, attorney client privilege, I understand that fully. But we're talking that this is going to take it out of Batavia's monies. This started out being Amelia's monies first. This is Amelia's tax dollars collected. This is Amelia's earnings tax dollars collected. This is not just Pierce and Batavia's monies. So when it comes down, I think it was a reasonable question. And I'm a little offended by that answer, honestly. So, you know what? Let's just leave it at that, guys. You know, I see where everything's at, and we'll just leave it at that.
So my recommendation would be to make this a positive situation, and this is very important to everyone in that neighborhood, and I certainly understand that. If it were in my neighborhood, I would feel similarly in many respects, is to, organize, get some boots on the ground, go door to door and get folks to get those petitions back to us as soon as possible. And we'll move that ball forward as soon as we get the critical number of affirmative answers. Then, we can schedule a meeting and move it forward quickly.
Yeah. Well, Pete, my boots have been on the ground for a long time. And
keep on trucking.
Being with COVID, people don't answer their doors, Pete. They don't answer their doors. We've talked to some of our, our common, Wake Up Amelia folks, and some of them aren't even responded. They're not even, you don't just go to their door and, and have conversations. If so, Renee and I would be out there marching the beat. But the thing is, it's not. And that's kind of where it's at, guys.
Well, one thing I would tell you, Tim, is I understand your frustration, and I think I've told you this before too, townships do not do streetlights. It's just not something that townships do. Pierce Township has never done it. And if you look at other townships, they do the same thing. They have lighting districts inside subdivisions, but they have HOAs that cover that. And so when you see the map that we've laid out and what the staff has been doing, and quite frankly, we've been involved in all of that, talking to Loretta, talking to Eddie, working through all this stuff. A lot of Amelia their lights are gonna stay on, including the lights that the township will be paying for. So there's gonna be quite a bit of coverage of areas inside Amelia where the lights will stay on. Where we have an issue is where we've actually come up with a creative solution, which is the lighting district. So we've gone pretty far above and beyond to try to keep the lights on and to make this work. So, I don't want you to have this belief that we're not trying to get something done here and that we haven't been working diligently to try to get that to be accomplished. And I think we've got Duke Energy, which is a frustration, and we've had some other things that are frustrations, but at the end of the day, we've come, what would you say, Loretta? It looks like we've got a resolution for what, a third of Amelia to have lights at this point?
Well, I mean, petitions out for 2/3 of the community, most likely, and then the remainder of it in two or three other HOAs.
Right. So it's not that, on one day, the lights are all going to go out in Amelia. It's not going to be the case. I mean, a lot of work has been done, a lot of staff work has been done to try to make it so that it works. And so we're trying to move forward with that.
Batavia Township is doing the same thing, working with their HOAs, but the timeline for their side and any of the HOAs is the same thing. They have to communicate with their members after they get all the information they need from Duke Energy. So they're going through whatever process is required in their HOA documents to move forward as well. And I don't know how long that takes them. We are not in that process. They're communicating directly with Duke on that.
So Tim, Renee raised her hand. Can I jump over to Renee?
Yeah, let me just say one other thing. It's real quick. If the two trustees, want to, reread what I sent and reach back out to me, that would be great. I would appreciate that.
I think that's a very good way to build bridges.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank you,
Tim.
Tim.
Hey,
Oh,
Tim,
sorry, Nick.
Yes,
would you mind resending that to me, please?
I could do that.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Why don't you send it to Pete as well? I'm sure Pete has it, but just so you can, just send it to him anyway.
Right. Alan, if it comes to you as well, disregard. Because you answered me. And
Okay.
I appreciate that.
But I may answer you again. You never know.
You know what? I'm good with that.
All right. I'm going to jump over to Renee right now. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Renee, I'm going to try to do this. All right. You're on.
Good job. That's like 2 in a row you've done without speaking.
I'm moving in the right direction.
It's only taken you 4 meetings, so
You're lucky. You're lucky you can even see me.
well,
I don't even know how to work that.
blessing. So let's not go too far. I wanted to say, we haven't brought this up, but the money that the property tax money, have we figured out the solution to that for us double paying yet? Or have they changed their mind and the money's going to Amelia? Or what's the status on that?
I'm not clear on exactly what you're
The property,
clarify.
the property that taxes that we paid for 2020, we paid for Pierce and not for Amelia. So we were double paying, we're double billed for Rumpke.
Actually, we're gonna have a larger discussion about the waste levy because there are a lot of other issues associated with it. So on the 24th, we're going to go over all that. Loretta, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I mean, I talked to another resident here. I took a phone call while we were on the meeting. The property taxes that are collected are paid to us in this year, and we're a cash basis system. So we can only pay for garbage collection in the same year that we receive the money to pay for that garbage collection. So there is no double paying. The services are being rendered and paid for in the same year because that is a separate contract for service. We wouldn't have been able to pay Rumpke if we didn't get the money this year. We still would be another year that we wouldn't have been able to provide the service if we didn't know that we were going to begin to receive our property tax settlement payments. So that's just the way levies work, and that's the only way the township can function. And those payments are made based on property values, regardless of how much garbage anybody puts out, even on vacant parcels that put no garbage out. They're all assessed based upon the levy amount. And that is the way levies run. And there is no credit for that. We can't pay the bills that we're getting from Rumpke without receiving the money this year. And we contract with them to provide that service in the same year that we receive the money, because it's like a checking account. The money has to be there before you can pay the bill. It's cash basis.
So go ahead. Go ahead, Renee.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
So it's essentially, it's like, back, I don't know what year it was, maybe Stan or Mark can
Before 2007 for sure,
Right.
because I went back
Or
at
Debbie.
least that far.
Whoever could tell us when the waste levy began in Pierce Township. The residents of Pierce Township were on a contract, just like Amelia was, with Rumpke or BFI or whoever it was. I believe it was Rumpke. And so when the levy passed, it was the same thing, because the people who were paying the contract with Rumpke continued to pay that contract until the money was available to move to the new contract under the levy. So you guys are like Pierce Township before the levy arrived. So you're not really double paying taxes. You're paying for the service that you had and then building forward for the service as it comes in. But we've got a larger problem because the levy is now short by between $70,000 and $80,000. And so we have to have a discussion about how we want to proceed to make sure that that levy can get through and it be extended. So we've got a much deeper discussion to have about that. And we're going to discuss that on 24th.
So that would be, you would be $70,000 to $80,000 short for the fiscal year 2020.
Now we'd be short for 2022, 22.
222, yeah.
Right.
So just
Because Rumpke charges for services and they don't care that taxes are paid in arrears. They want to be paid for what they're doing at that time. So that's kind of what Alan was trying to explain. Like when this tax got instituted, somebody voted on it in November, it got put into place. People paid it probably halfway through the following year in arrears, but we're also paying for their garbage to be collected all up until that point. Then they paid for it. Then we got the money in the fund. Then we used the money to pay Rumpke. Then Rumpke started providing us with services, but Rumpke isn't going to provide us with service if we can't cover the bill and at that moment.
okay, so we're basically then paying for, out of the 2020 property tax, paying for the 2021 Rumpke bill.
Yes.
Correct.
That's when we received the funds in 21.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
won't,
That's exactly right.
we won't receive, we've just, the tax bill you guys just paid, or we all just paid. That's the one that we'll start to pay for the services moving forward. And then the second half bill will also cover the last part of 2020.
But we're using the funds that were already in the account until we even receive the first settlement, because we started paying Rumpke in January, but we won't receive the payments till when, Debbie? April, May, or April? March, April?
April.
Okay. And then, so it is, then we did pay 2020 at the Pierce rate. Just to, and you guys, not Amelia, will receive those funds.
Correct.
We're counting on it.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I didn't like that answer at all.
I'm going to ask that question on Friday again.
Yeah, and we're going to hold our breath until we get the answer too.
Okay, and so you'll let us know on this meeting on the 24th what Amelia's plans are as far as finishing this up, because you will have had the meeting on Friday and then your other meeting, so we can get this information and hope to God this gets ended so they can quit getting paid.
Yeah, we'll have a public meeting on the 24th. If you don't hear anything before then, the 24th, we'll report everything that we know. We'll talk about the waste levy. We'll talk about the street lights and any other business that we
had a third
have that comes up. Yeah, energy aggregation program too.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, that helps, I guess.
That's the best we could do for now.
Well, I hope to have more answers on the 24th. That'd be great.
All right. Okay, without further ado, let's move, Loretta and Debbie, let's move on into new business, please.
Okay. I request a motion for approval of the payment of the payroll for the month of February in the amount of $397,995.27.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Wait, there's Nick.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes. Debbie, you're still up? You're next.
I request a motion for approval of the payment of the bills for the month of February in the amount of $335,910.06.
I'll make the
We
motion.
have a motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call.
Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
I request a motion for approval of the appropriations for 2021.
we have a
Yes,
motion?
motion.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Campbell,
Yes,
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
I request a motion for resolution 2021-006, a resolution authorizing adoption of the alternative method of apportionment of the undivided local government fund for calendar year 2022, that per the Ohio Revised Code, section 5747.53, excludes the approval otherwise required of the legislative authority of the city located wholly or partially in the county with the greatest population. This is what they have been working on for the last couple of years that we got changed, and it's requested that it be done every year.
We passed this the last, what, 2 years, Debbie?
2 years. Yes, sir.
Do we
I'll
have
make
any?
the motion.
Okay, we have a
Made the
motion. Do we have a
Nick.
second? Nick did, yeah.
Okay.
second,
We have a motion and a second. Do you guys want to discuss this at all? Guess not. Motion and a second, roll call.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
And I have one more that's not on the agenda.
You-
It's a real quick one. It's I request a motion for payment to the Clermont County Treasurer for the renewal of the 2021 stormwater permit in the amount of $4,456.78.
This is a yearly thing we do,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Is this more or
Motion.
less than last time?
Same, actually.
Okay.
Exactly the same.
Last time,
Yep.
though, it included Amelia. I mean, that was the first time last year that we paid that also
okay,
included the
okay.
Amelia
It's
area.
exactly the same.
Because
And
it's
so
based
it'll have
on
this-
territory or
Yeah, I just
a
got
map
the statement,
calculation.
so I wanted to get it
Okay.
paid.
So we have Pete who's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Debbie.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes,
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
That's all.
All right, cool. John, you're up.
Service Director John Kohler requests a motion to accept the lowest and best bid from Rack and Baller Excavating Company for the Bradbury Road Improvement Project in the total bid amount of $678,854. The base bid of $405 to be paid from OPWC funds approved in the amount of $484,000. An addendum will be approved in the amount of $87,845.25 to extend paving limits to 9 Mile Road. Clermont County Water Resources will deposit $186,500 with the township once invoiced to pay the contractor for water line extension constructed under the same contract.
You want me to explain this a little bit?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Walk us through it.
Yes, because there's still a little glitch here. But I know that Debbie has to figure out all the different funds this is coming from. So the bid came in excellent. You know, we're very pleased with the bid. We're within the engineer's estimate. And John was hoping he would be able to at the same time extend those paving limits because it's just going to create a break in pavement, looks unfinished. And until we can move further with another phase toward 9 Mile, this is just the ideal thing to do. So we definitely want to accept this bid alternate. However, we have to go back to OPWC, a district level committee, and receive approval to extend the project limits using the grant funds. So, I mean, the grant and loan, there's combination grant and loan. So we have to be able to pay it out of our own funds until we can find out if we can get approved, because the OPWC District Committee doesn't meet until May.
Hmm.
So I'm going to draft an appeal to the chair of the committee with Klanger's help that basically says, because we're not asking for any more funds, we are asking for them to allow us to extend the limits and use the same grant and loan money that was already assigned to this project. There's no guarantee though, and if we're going to need to award the bid before that May meeting, which I believe we do, we're going to have to use our resurfacing money or allocate it at the moment, but hopefully by the time we actually pay bills, you won't actually have to have paid it out of that fund yet. We'd start with the other portions of the grant and loan money prior to the final payment, because that would be the last step of the project anyway. And then Clermont County's water line, we just send them an invoice for their amount and they're going to pre-deposit that money. So Debbie will have that fund set up and knows where that money is coming from. And we won't award the bid again until we actually receive their money. And they've been communicated with. They don't have any other steps to go through other than receiving our invoice. And the engineer has communicated with them, and they've done business with this contractor already. They're actually working on the Locust Corner area drainage project now, or water sewer projects, I think they are. Does that make
Okay.
sense? So the total amount is $678,854, but part of it is grant, part of it's going to have to be our own street funds, and part of it is the county funds once they're received.
You guys get that?
Well, I got it.
Check.
But there's one piece. You said street funds. We talked about TIF. Loretta?
Well, but in the meantime, because the TIF fund is going to pay back the OPWC loan, because I
Okay.
can't put that bid alternate under that until it's approved, we're going to have to assign it. If we're going to sign a contract and award a bid, we're going to have to sign it from a different fund, because we
Got
can't
it.
put in a purchase order without a fund.
Got it. So
assigned to it.
we could use SB4 if we need to, right?
Right.
Correct, which is most likely what we are doing, because that's where she's appropriating it from, for all the
Perfect.
resurfacing.
Perfect.
Which was discussed.
It is in the appropriations budget that you're approved
Yes.
tonight.
Right.
There's about 700,000 in between the two different TIFs, I think, right?
Yes,
Yes. It was a chunk.
it was a chunk.
It's going to mean John's going to be busy.
Yes, it does.
Yes, very much so.
So that's the motion.
All right. So Nick, Pete, any further questions?
No.
Understood.
All right. Without further ado, we have a motion.
What am I making a motion on?
It's all on the screen there.
Can we go over this one more time?
Just say,
Start at the beginning.
Are you making a funny, Nick?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Were you making a funny, Nick?
No, I'm not.
he's not traditionally funny,
This is-
really.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes. All right, Chief Wright, you're up.
I request a motion to accept the resignation of full-time Lieutenant Brian Sims effective March 2nd, 2021 at 0600 hours.
All right, so we have,
So moved.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell and
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you. I request a motion to accept the resignation of part-time firefighter paramedic Suzanne Owens effective March 1st, 2021.
Make the motion.
We have a second.
Se- Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you. I request a motion to approve the appointment of Mason Mayfield as a part-time firefighter paramedic at the established rate pending successful completion of all associated pre-employment requirements and a one-year probationary period, noting that the cost of all associated pre-employment requirements be that of the township.
Motion.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you. And I request a motion to approve the appointment of Jared Brewer as a part-time firefighter EMT at the established rate pending successful completion of all associated pre-employment requirements and a one-year probationary period, noting that the cost of all associated pre-employment requirements be that of the township.
Do we have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chief Bachman, you're up. Chief, you're muted.
Oh,
He's still
his
muted.
lips are moving.
Okay, how's that?
That's much better, but you look like you're in an interrogation room or something.
Yeah.
You know what? My whole life circles around police work. That's all I can say.
You're
I
taking a
live,
break
eat-
from interrogating.
I live, eat, and breathe it, okay?
There you go.
Police Chief Jeff Bachman requests a motion to accept the retirement of Officer James Putz after 25 years of service, 13 of those years with the Pierce Township Police Department.
I'm very sorry to hear Jim is retiring. I didn't know that.
You know, when you reach your limit, you know it, and good for him. And I wish him luck. I think he will be coming back as a civilian to run our property room part-time in a couple months.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, we don't lose him.
A long time. Well, I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second with heavy heart. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes. All right, Chief Bachman, you're still up.
Police Chief Jeff Bachman requests a motion to pay Lexipol LLC $6,857 for our annual law enforcement policy manual and daily training bulletins.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Eddie, Mr. McCarthy, you're up.
Yeah, so I believe that mine is all taken care of, so there's really no action needs to be taken. You've already covered it.
So we're all clear at this point, Tom?
No, I thought you haven't passed that resolution yet.
Yeah, we haven't passed
I
the
think you
resolution.
discussed it and you discussed the amendment to it, but I don't think you
Right.
actually made the motion.
Right?
Yeah, we
So-
didn't pass a motion. I just didn't know if you were saying you don't want to do it tonight. That's all I'm saying. But I think that we do have everything we need to move forward.
Right. So, yeah, my suggestion is you pass the resolution as amended in the per the previous discussion.
I will make the motion to pass the resolution as amended per the previous discussion to modify or get rid of the TR zoning with the suggested modification of verbiage.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please, Debbie.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. All right, Loretta, you're up.
Thank you. I request a motion to extend Resolution 2021-005, a resolution authorizing temporary wage continuation for work-related absences due to COVID-19 until May the 31st of 2021. So when we had initially passed it, we had that with a March deadline on it, but there are people who still have yet to receive their vaccinations. And we're hopeful that by the end of May, that we will be through most of the staff having their vaccinations if they're interested in that. So I just ask that that be extended until May the 31st.
I think this is a win-win for the employees and for us from a workers' comp perspective and easier for them. So I will make that motion.
All right, we've
Second
got a
that.
motion. We've got a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes. All right, with that, we'll move on into other business. Loretta?
So as I had let you know before, Doug Dressy's current term on the Parks and Green Space Committee was expiring the end of February. The new term to be assigned to or appointed to is March 1st, 2021 for 5 years to February 28th of 2026. We did advertise to see if anyone was interested in volunteering at this time, and we did not receive any applications for that. So if you're agreeable, you could go ahead and reappoint Doug Dressy to this new term.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Make that motion.
To
Who did that?
extend his- To
Nick?
extend his contract. Yeah, hold on. Let's do that again. Let's do a motion. Because I didn't catch it either, Debbie. All
Okay, motion.
right, Pete's the
Sorry.
motion, Nick.
Second.
All right, Pete is the motion, Nick is the second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, Eddie had been contacted by Ms. Gangwer, who's been an alternate on our zoning commission. She is not able to be available to us to serve at this time. So we will need a new member appointed to our unexpired term that runs until May the 31st of 2022. And I just wanted to confirm that you would like for us to advertise for that vacancy.
My preference would be consistent with what we've been doing.
So I'll ask Eddie to go ahead and make arrangements with Laura to advertise that internally as we've done before, using our website and Facebook and so on.
I think that's appropriate. Pete, your thoughts?
Agreed.
All right,
That's all I have there.
departmental celebrations and updates. We start off with Chief Bachman, I'm sorry.
I just made a motion for Lexipol. That's our policy manual that we use. They gave us the Gold Award this year for our policies that have been issued and acknowledged by the officers. And another factor is the daily training bulletins that are issued and the officers that take them, the number. And that is basically a training tool that the officers get on policies, and it can range from anywhere from a lost child to mental health subject that we deal with, or an active shooter. And every day they come in and read a quick page and then take a test. So we receive the Gold Award, which means that we're doing very well on issuing them out to the officers, and the officers actually taking them. So that's a nice award to get. As you know, February was an extremely busy month for the police department. So I want to give thanks to all the officers and detectives and investigators that have worked diligently for all the crime that we had. We had of course, the homicide. We had a body that was drug out of a car, all of which have been solved and warrants issued and arrests made, and some other serious crimes. So busy month. I hope it slows down, but they've done a great job. And then lastly, this is not a police matter, but I think you should be aware of the fine job of one of your employees who has worked diligently the last couple months on the COVID issue, the Beckjord tower explosion, which was a lot to do. A command post was set up, and it was days of planning. And then the flood came, and your fire chief, Craig Wright, has worked diligently to make all these things go smoothly. I've been of little assistance, and I know John has helped him, so he has taken on his burden largely by himself. So thank you to him for making all of these giant things go smoothly. And I believe that is it for the police department.
Thank you. And that's a good segue right into the fire and EMS. You just blew his head up about 10 times bigger than it normally is. So now he gets to go at it. All right. So
Yes.
Chief Wright, you're on.
Well, thank you, Chief Bachman, for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, I got to tell you, it is true. I mean, you
Mhm.
were all over the Beckjord thing. You were all over the flood. I mean, you've been all over this place. So, well done. And Jeff, we don't want to take away anything from you guys because Jeff, you've done a great job too over the last, well, forever, but like you said, the last couple of months have been rough. But you guys, all of you, John, all of you have just been fantastic through the snowstorms, the floods, the towers that fall in the Ohio River, everything. So there's, you guys make it happen in this township. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have something pretty exciting to announce. Earlier today, Clermont County Public Health did a media release. They have launched a smartphone app for people that want to get scheduled for the vaccine. So as the state continues to amend the tiers and lower the age limits and approve people, they've rolled out an app called ArmorVax, ARMORVAX. It's available for Android and Apple smartphones. You can download the app. When you go to it, it lets you register. You can view available appointments. You can get scheduled. I think Laura actually in administrative office did it earlier today, and she was able to get her vaccine scheduled. So it's a new exciting tool that definitely will cut down on a lot of phone calls that our folks at the county are making and hopefully get people vaccinated a little bit quicker. Yeah, as we talked about briefly, the recent flooding, we made it through another event. The National Weather Service is predicting a wetter than normal spring and a above average threat of severe weather. So as we kind of head into that season, for everyone to be aware. And the flooding to touch on, just so everybody knows, there's a lot that goes into a flood coming up. And I think a lot of people are aware there's a lot, but it really is a team effort. John and the folks in the service department, we all talk a lot, and they go out and they stage road closed signs. Our staff in the fire department was fantastic. They go out every few hours and they drive the area. We have routes we drive, and they log the roads that are closed, the addresses we can't get to, where we need the boat. And then the police department folks, they're out checking roads in the morning. They're out patrolling overnight. So if water comes up overnight, they'll move signs out, they'll put cones out. So it's really a team effort. Everybody pitches in and it makes things go a lot smoother and a lot easier to get through. That is all I had, unless you have any questions.
I want to also thank Craig for all of the backup computer assistance, and every time there's a glitch in the system, that he has just been my right arm and Eddie's my left arm. So I really appreciate both of them with all of the other computer issues that have also taken a lot of attention.
I appreciate all your guys' efforts too. I will second Chief Bachman. I know I've been in communication with you, Craig, through some of this stuff, and you're like a pit bull. Once you start in on something, it's going to be thorough and it's going to get done well. It doesn't matter what it takes. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
First class. I want to make a comment about the COVID vaccination. This is something that I've thought about for quite some time. There are older folks and others who are not very tech savvy, and I think have a difficult time with the technology of using apps and signing up online and so forth. It might be worthwhile for us to think about, and I'll put myself right out there to make ourselves available. I'll make myself available to help any senior citizen or other individual resident of Pierce Township who's unable to negotiate signing up online. I can tell you my parents or my mother couldn't have done it without help, and I'm sure there are other folks that are in those very same shoes. So I'm happy to make myself available in my office staff at obviously no expense to the township or anyone else to help any citizen that needs help signing up I'm happy to make myself available, and you're welcome to put that out there, or just note at the front desk that if somebody calls and can't get help, doesn't know how to work it, they're welcome to call me and I'll gladly get on it.
Great.
Thanks, Pete.
Your cell number is 555.
I figured Alan could walk.
It's out, it's already out there.
I figured
Okay.
Alan could walk him through it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You about as good as
I tried,
could.
but I didn't have my Apple ID.
Loretta, what was it that I told you when you asked me about if I'd gotten the vaccine yet?
Yeah.
I was hoping it would end before I had to.
I'm getting my first one Friday.
Nice.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Although, Pete, I might be one of those senior citizens that, might need your help. If based on how I run these meetings on Zoom.
You know, that number is 947.
Alan, you were moving through the learning curve of the Zoom pretty well. I mean, you're.
Oh, yeah, you're just being nice. What do you want? You want me to put a new roof on? Is that what you want?
I think you might need one. I mean, those shingles are looking worn out.
Okay, moving on to streets, service, streets, cemetery, and parks. John, tell us something happy.
February was quite eventful. It does set a record for pretty much everybody in my department of how long we were at Pierce Township. I got my hats off to my guys. They struggled through it and they got through it, and they did a great job. We're looking forward. We're loving this dry weather that we've had. It's nice not slopping in the mud and snow and everything else. I do want to thank, there's a few residents and some staff members that thought of us a lot during that time, and they, I want to thank them for that, for those kind gestures that they have given us. But right now, we're hopefully next month I'll have somebody to add to our staff for next year or for this year coming up, and try to help out in the parks and the cemetery and on the roads when necessary. But for the most part, in the parks and the cemetery. What else?
Cemetery's been very busy too.
Yes. Well, thankfully it was not during all this snow. It miraculously slowed down. Like the week before all that snow came, we had like 7 burials in 1 week, which is kind of not normal. but while the snow was coming, we were slower. That's about all I got. I'm really close to having the paving bids to go out to advertise it. So hopefully we'll have that for the next meeting. What my hopes are.
That's great.
It's rather large, and I'm a little nervous. It's going to be a pretty big undertaking this year. I welcome it though with open arms.
Yeah, we'll be able to get caught up. John, on another subject, I've gotten a couple of calls from people over on 9 Mile there, and I know it's a county road, so going into this discussion, I know what it is. But I think you and I are going to have a chat with the county engineer. Apparently there's a bunch of semis are using 9 Mile as a cut through, and there are signs that put a weight limit on it, but they're too far in on the road. So a lot of the semis have already made the decision by the time they get into 9 Mile, they can't get back out. So they just keep going.
Yeah.
So we probably need to talk to Jeremy about relocating those signs so that they are visible before that truck driver makes a decision.
Yeah.
perhaps down at the bottom of 9 Mile, at the stoplight somewhere. So,
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
yeah, we can chat about it later. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered to tell you something about it.
We will be starting in off of Huntsman, updating all their signage. I don't know if anybody's drove through there, but it is not up to the standards that it has to be kept at. So we will probably next week you'll start seeing a lot of street signs being replaced, going down Huntsman, and then we'll eventually make our way all the way through the subdivision, but it is something that's got to be done. They're not reflective anymore. You can't see them at night. It's a safety issue.
Right.
For the street signs, the stop signs, everything. So,
Right. Okay.
we will be
John,
trying to
I had
dodge
two-
raindrops.
John, I had 2 residents from Amelia, former village of Amelia, Facebook instant message me that they have never seen the streets there during a snowstorm cleaner. So, that says a lot, right? So,
Yeah, we did them just like we do all the rest of our streets. So, it was a feat, I can tell you that, because we were getting scared on salt, because I had salt ordered, but they weren't bringing it because everybody was ordering it at the same time. And I still I want to thank ODOT. They loaned me 3 loads of salt, and Batavia Township also loaned me three loads of salt. We ended up not needing them, but I wanted to have that security blanket, because if we would have got the snow that they were actually calling for on that day, it could have been interesting.
Yeah. Hey, Renee, can I hold you over until the public comment real quick so we can get the last report in? Renee?
Yeah, that's fine. I
Okay.
was just gonna ask John about street signage, but that's fine. I'll do it afterwards.
Yeah, I just want to get this next one in so we can move through. I'll come right back to you.
Okay.
And then for the parks, the other 2 bathrooms that weren't heated, it was a concern to me about that, because the plumbing was in the one wall that separated the 2 bathrooms for the bathroom that we kept open all year.
Mhm.
And I had just mentioned to Kevin Paget that I was concerned that other bathroom wasn't heated, and I was wanting them to, give me a price on maybe putting a second heater in that other bathroom, just so that it would keep those pipes from freezing. Well, we walked up there and looked at it, and he was like, well, I'll just get 2 heaters. We'll heat the other 2 bathrooms, and we won't have to worry about anything freezing. So now, once I get the plumber back out there to reinstall the plumbing for the other 2 bathrooms, we won't have to close any of the bathrooms in the wintertime. And he did that for free. He supplied everything.
Can't beat the price.
So I just really want to thank him for that.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. Hey, Doug, I'm going to hold you over until the public comment. So just real quick, if John doesn't have anything else, we'll move on to planning and zoning.
Well, could I just add, though, a park-related comment? I
Yeah,
did
sure.
think that parks discussion would be included here.
Oh, okay. All right. So then you want to open up Doug then?
Well, I have some news that Doug doesn't have yet.
Ooh,
Also,
ooh, it's a challenge.
well, and it's preliminary, and that is that the first reports on our Clermont County Parks grant was that we were not probably going to be funded, because they had $300,000 of requests for $100,000 available. But apparently there's been a shift in projects, and there may be some funds available. So we were asked if it were approved, could we take $10,000 toward our $30,000 fence replacement project? And I told him I was pretty sure that we would be willing to do that because $10,000 is better than no dollars.
Yeah.
So Debbie and I talked just before this meeting, and that's what we would plan to do. So once they actually have their board meeting to approve that, based upon my telling him that we would be willing to accept that amount of money, then they will send us a grant agreement, and then we would know that we would be able to proceed with the project.
Right. And since I was in error because Parks is part of this, Doug, if you'd like to go ahead and make a comment, I will unmute you. I think I did it. Is he?
Yeah,
There
can
he
you
is.
hear me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, Doug. I was going to roll you over to the public comment, but then I remembered you're actually the chair of the Parks Committee. And this is an appropriate time for you to speak. So.
All right,
you're
no,
on.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the trustees, giving me another 5 years. I've enjoyed it, and I think we're doing really good things with the committee, and so I appreciate that, and I enjoy serving. So,
Well, we appreciate what you do.
Absolutely.
thank you. So that's good news from Loretta on the parks. Clermont County Parks Grant, so we'll look forward to hearing final resolution on that. But just wanted to update the trustees, following up from the work session that we had back in November, I believe it was. We're currently working on updating the master plan, and as we've discussed, and there's a good bit of work that needs to be done. But one thing we talked about in our meeting last week was Loretta's suggested that we perhaps get another joint session scheduled to review kind of drafts as far as where we're at. And we had proposed May, knowing that I think there were some scheduling issues with the trustees in May. June may be a better option for that, but I wanted to get that out on the table with the trustees as far as another joint parks trustees meeting.
I think it's a great idea.
You guys want to try to schedule something?
Sure. I mean, that's what I kind of wanted to bring to the table, knowing with May, I guess the trustee meeting is pushed out a bit. So, trying to do the joint session in May may be a challenge. So, perhaps June may be a better option.
Let's do June.
And do we want to do that in conjunction with the regularly scheduled parks meeting? Loretta, do you think that would be June the 2nd?
If they're available, I think we had done that before.
I'm available.
The June the 1st, Tuesday?
June 2nd.
2nd,
The
okay.
Wednesday, yes.
Second, okay. Yes, that's fine with me.
6:30, is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I can do it. Everybody, it looks like we're in.
Good.
Okay. We'll plan on that for the joint session. And I just also want to plug John Kohler in the service department for the snow removal. I missed last month's trustee meeting because I was spending 3 hours of my evening driving home in the snow from downtown. And the road that finally got me home was Bradbury, if you can imagine that. So
Unbelievable.
props to
Unbelievable.
the service department and keeping that road clear, and just really appreciate everything they do.
And the goats that we put along the path so they could drag you up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Doug.
I have one thing to add about parks, though. This is from the Natural Resource Advisory Council. The county put in an application. We mentioned this a little bit last time we met, but I can confirm now that they did receive funding from INRAC to do some work inside of the old Sky Valley Golf Course to make
10
that
Mile
open to the
Preserve.
public. Oh, I'm sorry, the 10-mile preserve, which I live on 10 Mile. We always will call it Sky Valley. But the 10-mile preserve, it was funded by NRAC. So that will be open to the public fairly soon so that people can enjoy the nearly 3 miles worth of trails inside that park. So that's more green space, more park space for Pierce Township
Great.
and the county, of course.
I would
Okay.
also like to just add real quick, Doug, I really appreciate all the time you spend on the park stuff and just to do such an excellent job, and really glad to have you on for a little bit longer here, at least, as long as you'll stay.
Well, no, thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, Planning and Zoning Administration, Loretta, it's all you, and Eddie, of course.
Oh, I put Eddie at the top of that one. I'll just tag on the end if I have anything else. So Eddie can report. I think we have a certificate for our participation in the census.
Yeah, so for the U.S. Census, which obviously concluded, that was the one census every 10 years sort of deal. So we received this certificate of acknowledgement from the Census Bureau. So we had the second highest response rate in the county. So we were just a shade under 80% total response, which is pretty good. It's also an improvement over prior years as well. We put a little extra effort into advertising and that sort of thing as far as getting the word out and trying to push people to participate as much as they can, because this can affect a lot of funding and congressional districts, everything. So it's pretty interesting to get this from them. So we'll frame it.
Very nice.
Who was first?
Miami.
Of course, it's always Miami.
It was a national thing, though.
Mhm.
Miami Township. Jeez. All right, what else you got, guys?
I don't think I have anything else unless you have questions.
Anybody have questions? All right. Mark Can has a question, but I got to take Renee first because she was first. So Renee. Oh, there you are, Renee.
Thank you. Hey,
Okay.
John, is there any way to put, I don't know what kind of signage you're going to do, but those speed humps where the signs are like this big, is there any kind of reflective paint that can be put on those? Or it's kind of wore down too, to put on those speed. So when you're driving, even people that know they're there, it comes up so quick, and I've seen people blow over that thing. I just wondered if there was any other, type of reflective stuff we could put on the speed humps, or
Are they?
out would be even better.
I would love to take them out. It make plowing easier, make life easier for everybody, except they were put in for a reason, and I guess there was a speed reasons through there. I mean, if the trustees want me to take them out, I'll take them out. But
Well, what's the process to like where the first speed hump is when you're coming down Huntsman, to put a 4-way stop sign there or to add 2 stop signs and speed hump out?
A township doesn't have the capability of creating 4-way stops. That has to go through the county. They have to do a speed study. And then I think it has to go to ODOT or the state, and then they have to approve it. It has to meet certain criterias. And to be honest, any of them that I've ever had done, they've never met the criteria to change. So, but I mean, if you want to put in a request, I'll definitely, I will forward that request over to engineer and we'll move from there.
Yeah,
But
'cause since they're opening up, Deer Creek is now going to be open to that other subdivision. You have more cars, and even coming out Deer Creek from Hummingbird, where I am, that house is so close to that curve. You almost got to come out to look left, and if so I don't think they put it in the right place.
yeah,
I think that, the stop signs would be a much more viable solution than those horrid speed bumps.
I agree with you. Because you could make Deer Creek a four-way, and then what's the other one? Partridge.
Yeah, on down. Yeah.
You could almost make that one a four-way also but I don't know that I could get it. I don't know that I could get them to allow us to do it.
Why don't we, John, why don't we put that on our list of things we got to talk to, that we need to talk to Jeremy about, and then
Okay.
we can just see how we proceed. I mean, for some reason, those speed bumps are there. I don't know why. But I don't think we could just make it up on our own.
Mhm.
I think we need to have somebody take a look at it and,
Yeah.
and give us that thumbs up, thumbs down
Yeah,
Are they
because
painted?
on that list. Sorry, Renee, go ahead.
Are the speed bumps painted right now?
very lightly.
Very lightly.
I don't know what they painted it with, but they're not. It's not reflective paint.
All right, we can paint it. We can put the glass beads in it. But we have a sprayer. I don't know how soon we'll be able to get to it, but I will definitely try to get that done this summer.
Yeah, because the speed bump sign is like way down, and there's too big a gap between. There is a speed bump to where the speed bump actually is, and then, like I said, the sign for the speed bump is literally this big.
I've hit my head on the ceiling before. I know. It might have been a few choice words after it, but we won't discuss those.
I wanted to jump on the bandwagon of the village. You've got big praises on Wake Up Amelia. So, like many people said, never ever had the roads been as clear. And I hope that people move their cars like you asked me to request as well. So I hope that helped a little bit too.
There was some, but there was still a lot left. But for the most part, they did. I mean, especially when the big snow came.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we thank you, and it's not gone unnoticed. So I appreciate it.
No problem.
Now I got to move over to Mark. His hand has been up this whole time. I'm sure his arm is sore.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow, I had to step away for a little bit. So if I get yelled at, which is pretty common around the house here, but so if anything I say has been covered while I was gone, I apologize. I got three things real quick, actually 3.5 things. The first thing is for Chief Wright. Hey, Craig, I got a jukebox.
Excellent.
So you can take me off the watch list.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
It's a long story, but anyhow, that's the half. The first thing is, what's the completion date for the dog park? And if you guys talked about that, please let me know. Doug, maybe I missed the green space meeting the other night. So when are we targeting to get that done here in Locust Corner?
That's a good question.
I can answer that. I just got confirmation that the water fountain has been shipped. We're waiting on that so that we can get the water line so that they know how to run what they need at the end for the water line. And once we get the water line in, we'll be able to get the concrete poured as soon as possible. And then hopefully couch fence is still, ready to go. So he acted like whenever we get our stuff to get our stuff in and get it taken care of, that they'll be there.
So we're like tentatively, we could say what, May?
It's been probably about 2 months since a month and a half, 2 months since I've talked to Couch Fence, so
Well, I was just,
I
because
can't speak on
yeah.
theirs, but as far as all of our part, as long as the water fountain comes in, really quick, then we'll be ready to go.
It's weather dependent though.
Yeah, obviously with pouring concrete and digging
Yeah,
up trench.
and it always has been. So is the fence. I know that. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, what is our plan for correcting all of these zoning violations in this township? I've complained about this for months. There are at least 24 junk vehicles on my common routes that I travel. What are we going to do about that? And this, as I've mentioned before, these are things that have been going on for years, not just weeks. What is our plan to correct that?
Loretta, Eddie, you tell how many times you guys do enforcement actions?
I know
Yeah,
that
so
Eddie has
our
sent notices.
enforcement. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, our enforcement is, we respond when there's a complaint. So we have, as you know, fairly limited staff resources as it pertains to specific code enforcement. We don't have a dedicated code enforcement officer, so I'm it. And so I respond whenever we get one, whenever we get a complaint. They are always responded to and investigated within 24 hours at the very least. And so that's our general process. We try and cover as much ground as we possibly can, but again, we're not going out looking for these violations. So if you want to email me or call, just like we've done in the past, I'm happy to go out. I know that a couple on Bradbury that you had mentioned I think there were maybe 3 complaints. 2 of them for sure have been remedied as of about a week ago. I think that there was one additional on 9 Mile that is still on the schedule to be reinspected. But at least 2 of those that I know of that we've discussed had been remedied.
If we had an endless supply of staff, we could catch up and we could do everything, but we don't. So we're doing the best we can to keep up.
Well, I mentioned before, this stuff has been going on for years. Okay. And I know there's a lot of things on the plate right now, but I don't think we can let all the other stuff that needs to be done go to hell in a handbasket. All our resources are focused somewhere else. I think we need to hire a part-time enforcement officer to work maybe in the next 6 months, not a full-time person, but a part-time person, retired school teacher or police officer or one of the EMTs that would like to pick up some extra bucks and go out and do some proactive, not reactive, zoning enforcement. We have backhoes in the front yard of right along Merwin. As you come into I mentioned gateways. The last time I complained about this, one of the biggest gateways in our township is Merwin 10 Mile. And the first thing you do when you pull up 125 is you see 4 junk vehicles of different sizes, shapes, conditions, right there on the right-hand side of the road. I hate to be if you want to pay me to go around and send you a list, fine, but that's not how my tax dollars, I think, are meant to be. I don't see how I do your job for you while I pay you to do my job. It doesn't make sense to me. We got to do something about that. We got to do something about this, guys. It's going on way too long. It needs to be addressed.
What are you suggesting, Mark? That putting in a complaint for you is like you should be paid for that or something? I mean, I'm going to just give my opinion on this very quickly. We have a lot of financial issues to work through this year. It's been very volatile. There's been a lot of changes, and we're not necessarily flush with cash, and there's a lot of uncertainty too over the next year until this Amelia dissolve thing gets worked out. So, I mean, I personally, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I agree with the gateways into the township, and a lot of this stuff looks like crap. And I do personally think it should be dealt with, but it is a matter of, you know, where do we put resources right now? And I don't know if hiring a staff person to do that specifically until we can get through the next at least few months, year, and get our feet under us, financially speaking, is a great idea at the moment.
Well, but we can discuss
Well,
it. We can have that discussion moving forward.
I would definitely be open to it moving forward. I'm just kind of laying it out there for specifically right now from my vantage point.
I can't see that this would be much of a financial burden. Okay.
It is if I could speak to it, just to say, this is not a new idea. You know, the first big move, and thankfully an excellent move, was to dedicate a full-time person to planning and zoning. And you can see with the level of work that we've accomplished and the work to be done with the rezoning for Amelia, the zoning for transitional residential, the development proposals that have been coming forward that we've been using a consultant to assist us with is no longer necessary. And the addition of Amelia, I forget the number. Eddie could tell me how many permits. I mean, I think a third at least of the permits that we've issued in this last year were for Amelia projects, as well as code enforcement that's above and beyond what we had already to respond to in the territory that we had. So we do know that we're busting at the seams, and we do have those needs. And we certainly are serious about trying to do a better job with that, to have a good function and process. The time that Eddie has been here, he's really also become familiar with all of the area, but it's been a real moving target in terms of exactly how to best use a new person and have the time to properly prepare and train them to do this work. But we have an excellent system now for tracking those complaints that he does document. Laura is very quick to prepare the correspondence and send it out. I can assure you that there's many violations that are still being caught and followed up on. But yes, we do need more resources, and we've had conversations, Eddie and myself and the trustees, about when the right time is to bring that on. But right now, we're just processing as much information as we can, doing the best job that we can on the code enforcement. Sometimes when I've had more time, even in the past, I also participated in that code enforcement myself. So we do plan to do better. It's important.
I'll give you a pass on the last year. But these things have been around for years before. So we haven't paid, there hasn't been a zoning enforcement officer since Tubb left. That's been 10 years. I'm telling you guys, whatever your plan is, I'd like to see it put into place sooner as opposed to later. I mean, now we're going into spring when nothing's going to be, you know, all the leaves and everything's going to come out and all the stuff's going to be hidden. The best time to do violations, proactive violations, is in the wintertime when you can see all the crap. Okay. So I'll give you a pass on the last year. I'm not happy with the 9 years prior to this, but give me a plan. Give, not me, this township a plan on when we're going to get it cleaned up. It's ridiculous.
Okay,
You know,
but you had
so
a
guys
third thing.
So you guys figure it out. I'll look forward to some kind of plan.
You had a third thing. That was only two.
Number three, we need to,
Right.
number three, I think you need to come up with a long-term plan for the administration, building and premises. I don't know if you got it on your work plan for 2021. I've never seen one, but the blacktop is in terrible shape around the administration building. It needs a facelift on landscaping. It could probably use a little decorating and that kind of stuff. And eventually, we need to build a new administration building or do something, because
Man, you just love to spend money.
Well, I'm talking about a long-term plan. Look, you know what the other tounships looks like. Ocean
Taj
Township.
Mahal's.
Taj Mahal.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need in Pierce.
Even Ohio Township looks better than us, okay?
Okay.
I'm telling you, our administration building is what, 50, 40 years old or something? We need to come up with a plan to do something to spruce things up and come up to date and make things look a whole lot better. Even if you can't build a new building, we can dress things up to make it look like it's more presentable and more in line with what we want for Pierce Township.
Okay, thanks,
Well, I'd
Mark.
like to see some kind of plan be put in place to say, what can we do long-term, just like you did for the Red Lion thing. Let's, what are we gonna do about our administration building and our facilities around the township here to make it look, presentable?
Okay, thank you, Mark.
That's
Can I
it.
respond to some of that?
Yeah,
Sure.
go right ahead.
Okay. The parking lots are part of the paving bid this year that will be sent out. Right now I am talking with a couple landscapers for maybe changing up the landscaping, to freshen it up. And then, right now, and then I'm also getting prices on painting on the interior and getting prices on carpeting for the interior. So that's, whether we have the money to do all of that, I don't know, but I'm at least getting the prices where we have a baseline of where we can go off of to plan for the future of it.
That's a step in the right direction.
There you go. Ed McCoy was next. So we're going to move on to Ed McCoy. Thanks, Mark.
Good evening, guys. I just got a couple things myself. I got on late, so if I mention anything that's been brought up, just let me know and I'll address it in email or something. But back in 2019, wasn't the state going to repave the stretch of 125, the Amelia part? Is that still on schedule? Does anybody know?
I drove that today and it was actually on my mind. I was going to ask Eddie if he might be able to contact the folks that we were talking about with the street lights, contact ODOT or maybe John, because they are the ones that had told us that we were going to be on that paving bid, but they had a lot of catch basin work and other preparation work to do. And I think they're working on the signals, and I don't know if they had to put anything in infrastructure for that too. So either John or anybody else have any updates?
I know I talked to, I can't think of what his name is right now, but he runs the ODOT right here in Hamlet. I talked to him and he had stated to me that they were planning on going ahead with the paving of 125, but he had told them that it was a bad idea right now because the catch basins were in so bad a shape that it was just going to fall apart again really quickly. So I know he didn't tell me when they were going to be paving it, but I know they are working on fixing all of those catch basins. So I would assume that, either if it was planning on paving this year, it will either be this year or the following year, I would think, but I can't give a definite answer.
Well, I was told specifically that it was going to be 2021 when I called ODOT myself back in 2019.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to catch Todd Hart in a lie, which I did. But yeah, it's supposed to be spring of 2021. And the only reason I'm saying is because I'm trying to teach a kid how to drive. And when he's going down 125, he don't deviate. So if anything rough, he's going through it.
The thing, once they took ownership of that section of 125 and they actually started investigating all the catch basins and everything, that might have changed things on the paving schedule. So
It's not uncommon that they'll push a project for a year or so because they found that, something was a problem.
And that's fine. I mean, we've been dealing with it for a while, and they're pretty good at when you call them over something, they're pretty good at getting out there real quick and fixing it. But Yeah, maybe
I know they've done
another
some,
date, whenever.
I know they've done quite a bit of patching and, you know, grinding and patching and trying to remedy the situation until they can do a full pave on it. So,
Yeah, it's just starting to look a little rough right now. I mean, it's not like deep potholes or anything, but
Yeah.
there's some rough spots, that's for sure. And my other thing is Prosecutor DeCalvey was on here for a while, and I guess he left. I was kind of going to pick his brain, but I kind of want to talk about On the Green for a minute. It was back in the middle of 2019. I went to a Pierce Township meeting, and Nick Kelly had this beautiful PowerPoint presentation that it was. I mean, it painted a picture, a very clear picture of just the state of On the Green ever since that the new owners took ownership, I think back in 2016. So at that time, I believe, and I could be wrong by a year or something, but I believe at that time they had been owners for 3 years. And this PowerPoint, you could see how the conditions have gone down by this PowerPoint that Nick put out. And you can also see how crime skyrocketed in those 3 years. Now fast forward to where we're at now, and I've been to meetings after that where they would come in and they would sit there and talk about all this money that they spent and improving the place. Well, I'm here to tell you, criminals, they don't care what the place looks like. They don't care how much money that this place would put in, which at the time, one of the meetings said $3 million. You know, this is a point where something needs to be done about it, and it's got to be done pretty quickly. What about potential new residents coming to Pierce Township? You know, this is a black eye for us, and it's a beautiful township, and you have this one black eye. I mean, I'm sure there's data out there that people can look at on how many deaths there are in a township that they're potentially looking to move to. And, you know, we're sitting here having these talks right now. We could be having a talk like this after losing one of our own Pierce Township police that have gone there on a call. You know, this is something that we gave them some time. This is going on 2 years later. And, you know, we're up to 4 people whose lives have been snuffed out. You know, I'm just frustrated at it. It's hopefully something's going on, and hopefully there's something going on in the background. But at some point, we have to say this is a lost cause, and no matter how much money it takes for us to get rid of this and do whatever we have to do, maybe it's that time. Because I'm sure there's residents that live right around there that are petrified going home and going past that place on their way home. So that's all I got to say about that. And does anybody know when we're going back to live meetings?
Well, we're waiting for the state to tell us when that day can be, but we're hoping soon.
Yeah, Ed, I couldn't agree with anything that you said more. I mean, I totally agree. You know, we had the instance, we had the PowerPoint presentation. I think what we've been told is it's getting better. I think what we're seeing is it's not statistically, and we're still working on continuing to compile some of those stats. We have been staying on top of them, but we're digging a little deeper on some of that stuff at the moment, kind of looking at painting a more tangible picture of exactly what's going on over there. But I don't think it's consistent with what we're being told. So I think we're being told there's money being spent, things are improving. The outcomes, and statistically speaking, I don't think that they are. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think we need to continue to not just look really seriously, but really think hard about what our next step is going to be. And I personally, I don't know if our little quarterly meetings with these folks to listen to the lip service they give us is panning out to much at this point. And I don't think to do the same thing and expect a different result would be very prudent at this point. That's my personal opinion.
Do we have is crime actually going down, or is it going up? Is it staying about the same since 2019? How are we looking there?
It's not looking very good. It does wax and wane through different times of the year. And of course, you know, we've been given the excuse of COVID for last spring because people are at home and domestic violence and things have shot up. And that may be true as true statistic, like on a broader perspective. But I think we're telling a different tale here, kind of tailing into the end of last year and beginning of this year. And we're still kind of putting those stats together. but my inclining is probably not. We're probably not seeing any kind of improvement over there, if not certainly any kind of major, meaningful improvement.
I think we can all agree that this is an eyesore on Pierce Township. Does everybody agree with that?
No, nobody disagrees with you on that. I
To the
totally
outside
agree.
world,
Agreed.
it doesn't look favorable on us.
And maybe it's time to reconsider looking at that public nuisance matter. That came up, I think, was it 2019 or maybe 20?
It's still there. I mean, we haven't pulled it back.
It's still there. We're working with some of our legal resources now to kind of think about what our best move is. And so I think we'll probably be exploring some of our options pretty soon. And Pete and Alan and I can, at an open meeting here, hopefully soon, kind of once we get things laid out for us, be able to talk about that and make some kind of decision.
Yeah, because I know that every time something big happens there, it's all over social media. And even the people living there that talk about what went on or whatever, there's never anything favorable said about that place.
Mhm.
Never. I don't think people really give a rat's ass if they finally got the pool working. People want crime to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's all I got to say, man. And I'm sure you guys are working on it. I'm sure you guys are on top of it. But, at some point, I think, maybe we have to explore all options and if you have to write the place off at some point, maybe the place has to be written off. I don't know. But, if the crime's not going down, something's got to change.
Do we have anything, Loretta, set up with the owners for a meet and greet type thing anytime soon?
The chief and Eddie have been communicating with them regularly. I think the chief most often. So I would refer to them.
We're going to continue to this. We have an executive session this evening. We'll continue to discuss legal strategies here. But my personal opinion is the meet and greet with the ownership is kind of sailed, in my opinion. I don't think it's proving to be very productive.
Certainly not our last encounter.
No.
But Ed, I'm gonna move over to Stan because once again, Stan, he's got his hand up for a long,
All right,
long,
thanks a
long
lot, guys.
time. Thanks,
Appreciate
Ed.
Thank you.
Okay, Stan. Let's see. No, Stan, you're not up yet. Hey,
I'm supposed to undo myself, am I? Oh, okay.
yep, there you go.
Okay.
I had to
Sorry
push
about
it I had to push it so that you were allowed to, and then you did.
Okay. I was going to ask a question about on the green, so you've answered that. My second question was when Mark was talking about discussing looking at properties, there's still the property at the bottom of Nordyke that I would refer to as the homeless camp, where you've got the 3 or 4 cars out the front, you've got chickens, you've got a tent, you've got some derelict bloody building with a tarp over the top of it, and all sorts of crap there. And we've been on about that for probably 2 years, and it still looks the same. And if you talk about an entry into the township, that's sort of one of the entries into the township. If you come down Nordyke, come down from Hopper Hill down Nordyke, there you are, and you go past the damn homeless camp. It's horrible. Are we doing anything about that, Betty?
Well, I think we have in the past filed complaints against those folks. I don't know if-
Yeah, but they haven't done anything about it. Have you seen it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I do.
the last complaint that we had was they had an inoperable vehicle on site.
Which one?
Which one was that?
Right. And so we sent them a letter, we went and investigated and that sort of thing, went back and it had been removed. And you could take that process and probably multiply it by 3 or 4 sort of thing.
Right.
In that, we've got a file full of instances where there was a complaint. We acted on it. They had debris or garbage or whatever miscellaneous thing just on their property. And we followed up and then they remedy it and then it just gets replaced with something else. And, I'm not sure what their lifestyle choices are. It looks like they get a lot of clutter on their site And as it happens, we take care of it. But as far as preventing them from being messy, that's a different story. I don't have any great silver bullets on that one, but we'll continue to follow up as we get complaints. And
So in other words, you want me to complain? You want me to send you a photo of the tent and the building with the tarp on the top and the 4 or 5 cars that whatever happens to be there each time I go by, and complain.
Yeah, you don't have to take a photo. We'll just respond to, we respond to a conversation and that sort of thing. And I'm not trying to
let's take this Stan's comments as the complaint.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
One around the corner on
Right.
9 Mile.
Oh yeah, well, Gail's saying the guy around the corner, the second house around the corner on 9 Mile, it's always got a car for sale. He had a BMW the other day, and there's 2 or 3 cars. He has them on the hill, and he has them up his driveway, and it's like, it's the one around the corner. You can't miss it. It's always got a car for sale in the yard. Did we ever do anything about those? Or should I complain about that too?
Is that what you would like to do?
Yeah.
Is this an official complaint?
I'll do it officially tomorrow.
Okay.
Take a photo on the way home and send you a photo. Okay.
It's now officially been logged.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
guys, thanks.
Okay. With that, we are, as Trustee Kelly indicated, we have on our agenda an executive session to confer with legal counsel to discuss pending or imminent litigation. Can I have a motion to move into executive session?
I will make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we do roll call, please?
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Campbellis,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes. So now, Eddie, can you take us to another room, and who will be going with us? Nick?
Well, of course, the 3 trustees, Debbie, Loretta, Chief Wright, preferably if he's still here, and Chief Bachman.
Did everyone from did everybody from the prosecutor's office leave us?
Unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So Eddie, if you could extend the invitation to those individuals for us to go into executive session, and we can begin.
all right, sounds good.
All right, so is everybody back from the meeting room? Nick, Pete, everybody's here. We are now leaving the executive session. We took no action inside of executive session. We'll take no action here. So based on that, at this point, I believe we're at the point in our meeting where we can adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Debbie, roll call, please. You're muted.
Muted.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes, we now stand adjourned. Thank you very much for everybody for being here and participating.
All right. See you later.
See you
Have a
next
good
time.
night. See ya.
Bye.
Night.
Night.
Thank you, Eddie.